All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're tackling something absolutely crucial: leadership in an age of nonstop disruption. We're looking at a framework that completely flips the script on what it means to be at the helm when the waters get, well, incredibly choppy. It challenges pretty much everything we've been taught about creating stability. Honestly, it's basically a survival guide for any leader trying to navigate today's absolute chaos. Let's get into it. So picture this. Imagine the African jacana, the water bird, stepping incredibly lightly across sinking lily pads. It's a gorgeous image, right? But it perfectly captures our modern reality. Think about it. Our roles, our strategies, our business models, even our core beliefs, they're all temporary. They are literally just lily pads on a pond. And if you stand still on them for too long, you're going to sink. It's a harsh reality check for sure, but movement isn't just a fun option anymore. It's an absolute condition for survival. And that brings us to a really stark contrast between the outdated illusions we hold on to and the urgent reality we're actually facing. On one side, you've got traditional leadership. You know, the type completely obsessed with control, predictability, and permanence. But as we just established, permanence is a total trap. On the flip side, we have waterbird leadership. This approach completely abandons that impossible quest for control. Instead, it's all about enabling movement, rapid adaptation, and actually finding your meaning while you're in motion. Because here is the hard truth. Geopolitical instability, massive technological shifts, they've permanently destroyed the certainties we used to lean on. I mean, look at the perma-crisis world we're operating in right now. Social change, organizational fragility, relentless tech disruption. The illusion of stability hasn't just cracked, it has completely collapsed. The days of relying on fixed structures and predictable linear pathways, yeah, those are gone. So clinging to stability now actually makes you a liability. And look, I know that sounds exhausting when we're all just trying to keep our heads above water. But to actually thrive, we have to cultivate 4 specific mindset shifts. First off, we've got to get comfortable with the deeply uncomfortable feeling of just not knowing. Second, we need the ability to take decisive action even when we don't have 100% certainty. Third, we have to find the courage to let go of those outdated leaves we've been standing on. And finally, we need the discipline to continuously reimagine how we do things. Okay, so what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, reinvention is no longer just a clever tactical choice. It's literally an existential requirement. Back in the stable environments of the past, your main job as a leader was to optimize, right? You took the existing machine and made it hum just a little bit better. But today, in this highly disruptive environment, leaders have to reinvent, and they have to do it continuously. You've got to drive ongoing learning cultures and actively push for experimentation over perfection. There's this one quote from our source material that I think serves as a massive wake-up call for all of us. Stagnation, whether strategic, cultural, or personal, is organizational decline in disguise. I mean, let that sink in for a second. If you're just passively analyzing things, aggressively trying to protect what you currently have, you are actually moving backward. Today's leadership demands that you actively create continuous momentum in your thinking, your capability, and your direction. Which brings us to a pretty uncomfortable shift. Great leaders don't make their followers feel safe. They make them strong enough to thrive without guarantees. It's a huge departure from what we're used to. For decades, employees have been conditioned to seek structural security from their companies. But the companies themselves are inherently unstable now. So Waterbird leadership says we have to stop promising fake job security and start building real internal capability security. We have to shift our teams from dependency to true self-leadership. Now, let's talk about something called the appreciation paradox. Because we live in this incredibly transient world, everything is actually way more valuable. Knowing that every project, every team dynamic, every strategy will pass shouldn't make us apathetic. Actually, scratch that. It should do the exact opposite. It means we need to treat every single opportunity as finite, which injects so much more meaning into the work we're doing right now. We have to lead with sharp focus and act with massive urgency without ever losing our humanity along the way. You know what else disruption destroys? Binary thinking, and this leads us straight to the concept of and thinking. Look, if a leader is offering you false certainty or pushing a single, simple answer to a massively complex problem, they are putting you at risk. True Waterbird leaders embrace ambiguity. They totally understand that competing truths can coexist side by side, and that holding space for better questions is a vital strategic capability. So how do we navigate all that ambiguity? We have to combine ego reduction with strategic imagination. First up, humility. You've got to realize that while you definitely influence outcomes, you absolutely do not control them. Over-identifying with outcomes is just a fast track to burnout. Second, anticipation. Reactive leadership, it's dead. You need to spend time mentally living in the future, not to perfectly predict it, obviously, but to prepare for it. That way, when the inevitable shock hits, you're already ready to move. And doing this requires us to really challenge our own egos. Are we just defending intellectual rigidity, or are we genuinely strong enough to let go of positions when they stop serving us? Fortification is probably the biggest threat in the leadership landscape right now. Creating those toxic us versus them dynamics, or defending a strategy just because it was your idea. That just accelerates decline. Waterbird leadership completely rejects that. It thrives on openness, it actually welcomes dissenting voices, and it always prioritizes the raw truth over comfortable illusions. When you take all these principles and put them together, you arrive at the absolute core of the Waterbird concept, and that is liberation leadership. This is a leadership style that actively, intentionally encourages your people to outgrow their current roles. It's completely obsessed with building internal resilience instead of relying on external organizational dependence. And most importantly, it fundamentally replaces old-school compliance with total empowered ownership. But what does liberation leadership actually demand from us in our day-to-day practice? Well, we basically have to change our entire operating system. You can't be a controller anymore. You have to become an enabler. You can't just rely on sheer authority. You need to become a facilitator of great thinking. And you definitely can no longer be a protector who shields people from reality. Instead, you have to be a challenger who pushes your team to adapt and grow. There's a defining mindset from the source material that I truly believe every leader needs to adopt right now. It's this mantra: grow with us, outgrow us, but do not stand still. Just think about how empowering that is. It sets this crystal clear expectation that movement is the only acceptable state. It gives your people full permission to evolve, even if that evolution eventually takes them right out the door and beyond your current organization. So, let's break down the practical implications of all this across the board. How do we actually apply these concepts to survive and, find some meaning in all this disruption? If you're a leader, your actionable shift is to stop promising stability and start building adaptability. Measure your success by growth, not control. For organizations, it's about designing for pure agility, creating an environment where movement is safe and expected. And as an individual, treat your career as an evolving journey. Whatever you do, do not anchor your identity in a single role. Because remember, that role is just a temporary leaf on the pond. We're going to wrap up this explainer with a pretty provocative question. It's something to really challenge how you'll embody the Waterbird starting tomorrow. Ask yourself, are you stubbornly defending a strategy, a role, or a mindset that's already sinking under the weight of disruption? Or are you ready to move? Because the leaders who are going to thrive in the future aren't the ones who resist reality. They move, they adapt, they let go. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it leaves you equipped to step lightly and confidently into whatever comes next.